In a world teetering on the edge of nuclear disaster, one nation chose action over hesitation. Israel's covert strike on Iran's nuclear program wasn't just a headline, it was a high-stakes mission that rewrote the rules of modern warfare. With undercover operatives, cyber sabotage, and surgical airstrikes, Israel launched one of the most daring military campaigns of the 21st century. And here at Celeb Watch Daily, we're not just about the glitz and scandal, we bring you the real stories shaking the world stage. In this special feature, we pull back the curtain on a high-tech war in the shadows, where every second, every secret, and every strike carried the weight of global consequences. So buckle up, hit that like button, and subscribe, because this is the story the world needs to hear. Israel's unprecedented military operation against Iran's nuclear infrastructure shocked the world. With deep-rooted geopolitical tensions, clandestine intelligence, and sophisticated warfare, this 12-part series unraveled the complexity of one of the most daring missions in modern history. The animosity between Israel and Iran is deeply entrenched. Israel has long viewed Iran's pursuit of nuclear weapons as an existential threat. Over the decades, Iran expanded its uranium enrichment efforts, built underground facilities, and openly threatened Israel's survival. Meanwhile, Israel adopted a policy of deterrence and preemption. International diplomacy, including the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, did little to allay Israel's concerns, especially when Iran resumed uranium enrichment post-US withdrawal from the deal in 2018. The Mossad had already demonstrated its reach by smuggling out nuclear archives from Tehran in 2018. This solidified Israel's belief that covert operations could work and laid the foundation for a broader military engagement if necessary. Israel's intelligence success was not accidental, it was years in the making. Mossad had penetrated Iranian nuclear facilities, government circles, and scientific communities. Operatives smuggled drones and gathered real-time data. They created a 360-degree intelligence ecosystem that included cyber intrusion, human intelligence, HUMINT, and satellite surveillance. The mapping of nuclear sites like Natanz, Fordow, and Iraq was precise. Deepfake technology, facial recognition, and even social engineering were reportedly used to locate scientists and monitor site activity. This intelligence framework became the cornerstone of Israel's strategic decision-making. The air assault was a logistical masterpiece. Israeli fighter jets navigated covert air routes through neutral airspace and were refueled mid-air by tankers. Multiple waves of jets launched coordinated strikes on nuclear infrastructure. Drone swarms jammed communications and targeted electrical substations. Cyber attacks coincided with physical strikes to paralyze Iranian response mechanisms. Special forces embedded in Iran painted laser targets, disabled radar systems, and provided real-time guidance. Meanwhile, Israeli defense systems like Iron Dome and David's Sling protected the homeland from Iranian retaliation. Submarines stationed in the Gulf served as backup firepower, showcasing Israel's full-spectrum warfare capability. Initial reports indicated significant setbacks to Iran's nuclear capabilities. Natanz and Fordow were heavily damaged, with thousands of centrifuges destroyed. Iraq's heavy water reactor suffered multiple hits, halting its plutonium pathway. Globally, the reactions were mixed. Western powers acknowledged Israel's right to self-defense but expressed concern over regional escalation. Arab Gulf states remained silent, indicating tacit support. Iran, on the other hand, vowed revenge but struggled to muster a coherent response amid internal confusion. The United Nations called for restraint, while Russia and China condemned the attack. The U.S. administration maintained ambiguous support, revealing its behind-the-scenes assistance only through leaks and media briefings. Iran responded by launching hundreds of missiles toward Israeli cities. However, most were intercepted by Israeli defense systems. Iranian proxies like Hezbollah and militias in Syria also attempted attacks, but these were swiftly neutralized. Iran's cyber retaliation was modest and largely ineffective. Reports of leadership figures going into hiding hinted at internal panic. The Revolutionary Guard's inability to mobilize a large-scale counteroffensive revealed systemic weaknesses. Moreover, Iran's missile arsenal, though numerous, lacked precision, limiting its effectiveness. Internal political strife further hampered a unified military response. The strike had far-reaching implications across the Middle East. Sunni Arab states, particularly Saudi Arabia and the UAE, quietly celebrated Iran's humiliation. Turkey maintained a cautious stance, while Lebanon faced increased tensions due to Hezbollah's involvement. Iraq's airspace and political neutrality were tested, with many lawmakers condemning violations. Jordan and Egypt enforced heightened security at their borders. The Gaza Strip remained volatile, but Hamas avoided escalation. The operation reset the regional power dynamics. Israel's ability to act unilaterally against Iran re-established it as the dominant military force in the region. At the UN, emergency sessions were called. Western diplomats walked a tightrope between condemning violence and supporting Israel's security needs. European allies, while uneasy, largely supported Israel's claims of self-defense. Russia and China condemned Israel, citing the violation of sovereignty. However, they stopped short of taking concrete action. The Biden administration issued vague statements but quietly ensured military aid to Israel continued. Diplomatic fallout included stalled negotiations on Iran's nuclear deal, rising oil prices, and increased tensions within NATO over Middle East policy. The operation had ripple effects on global markets. Oil prices surged due to fears of Strait of Hormuz disruptions. Insurance premiums for shipping in the Persian Gulf spiked. Israel faced short-term financial strain from mobilizing reserves and protecting infrastructure. However, defense stocks surged, and investor confidence remained stable. Iran's economy, already reeling from sanctions, suffered further due to destroyed facilities and investor flight. Global supply chains, especially in energy and defense tech, saw temporary disruptions. Meanwhile, cyber attacks on financial institutions, attributed to Iranian hackers, led to tighter digital security protocols worldwide. Civilian casualties in Iran were reportedly low, though exact numbers remain unverified due to censorship. In Israel, missile attacks led to several deaths and injuries, primarily among those who failed to reach bomb shelters. NGOs raised concerns about regional instability affecting refugees in Syria and Iraq. International Red Cross operations were intensified in border regions. Israel's military warned civilians before strikes were possible, using precision-guided munitions to minimize collateral damage. Despite this, the psychological toll on populations in both countries remains significant. Both nations launched parallel information campaigns. Iran portrayed the strikes as imperialist aggression, emphasizing civilian suffering. Israel, meanwhile, released satellite imagery and videos showcasing the success and precision of its attacks. Social media was a battleground of narratives. Iranian state media aired funeral parades and patriotic rhetoric. Israeli channels emphasized security, survival, and moral justification. Disinformation campaigns ran rampant, with deepfakes and AI-generated content muddying the waters. Western media largely echoed Israeli claims but urged for de-escalation. Russian and Chinese outlets framed it as Western-sponsored aggression. The conflict illustrated the future of warfare, a hybrid of cyber, drone, space, and psychological warfare. Israel's integration of real-time intelligence, AI-driven target selection, and deepfake counterintelligence marked a paradigm shift. Iran's reliance on proxies and outdated missile systems showed the limitations of traditional warfare. The conflict may push Iran to accelerate cyber capabilities and develop more resilient command and control infrastructure. Other nations observed carefully. The US, Russia, and China took note of Israel's ability to strike a nuclear program without direct war. Lessons learned here will influence defense policies across the globe. With Iran's nuclear ambitions set back by at least a decade, Israel achieved a strategic victory. However, it also ignited a prolonged period of uncertainty. Iran may seek revenge through proxies or covert operations. Diplomatic channels remain fragile, with international efforts focused on de-escalation. Israel continues to monitor Iranian resurgence while strengthening regional alliances. The operation underscored a harsh reality. In a world where diplomacy fails, nations may revert to preemptive warfare. For now, Israel has bought time, but peace remains as elusive as ever in the Middle East. Israel's covert war on Iran's nuclear program was a daring, controversial, and defining moment in 21st century military history. It redefined the boundaries of what a sovereign nation can do in the face of perceived existential threats. Whether it paves the way for peace or further war depends not just on military might, but on political will, diplomacy, and the world's appetite for stability in a deeply fractured region. As the dust settles and the world watches with bated breath, one thing is clear: this wasn't just a battle over uranium or missiles. It was a clash of wills, power, and survival. Israel's covert war against Iran has set the tone for a new era of global tension and technological warfare. But the bigger question remains: what comes next? At Celeb Watch Daily, we don't just follow the headlines, we dig beneath them. From celebrity secrets to geopolitical shockwaves, we bring you the stories the mainstream avoids and the truth they hope you'll ignore. If this deep dive blew your mind, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Got thoughts on what went down, or theories of your own? Drop them in the comments. We're watching. Until next time, stay sharp, stay woke. This is Celeb Watch Daily.